Chosen ones, there is something about your silence that unsettles people more than any words ever could. They expected you to return. They expected you to miss them loudly, to reach out, to explain yourself, to fight for a place that never truly valued you. They thought time would weaken you. They thought distance would make you forget what you felt, what you saw, what you finally understood. But you didn't go back, and that is what shocks them. Before we go deeper, I need to say something quickly. This channel has been restricted, so I can't share everything here anymore. I'll still post, but the deeper messages are now in my private sanctuary. I've already uploaded some there if you've been feeling this shift. Stay with me because most people miss what is really happening here. This is not just about walking away. This is not about pride or ego or trying to prove a point. This goes deeper than that. You reached a moment where something inside you became still, not broken, not empty, just still. And in that stillness you saw clearly, you saw the patterns, you saw the cycles, you saw how much of your energy was being pulled, stretched, and quietly drained. You saw how often you were the one adjusting, understanding, forgiving, and carrying more than your share. Once you truly see that, you cannot go back to not knowing. This is where it changes. The version of you that used to chase was built on hope, hope that things would shift, hope that people would recognize your worth, hope that if you just gave a little more, tried a little harder, stayed a little longer, everything would align. But your awakening removed that illusion. It showed you something most people never fully accept. You never needed to chase anything that was truly meant for you. Most people are not used to someone like you. They are used to reactions. They are used to emotional responses. They are used to people circling back, reopening doors, restarting conversations that should have been closed. They are used to access. You broke that pattern without making noise. You did not argue your way out. You did not beg your way out. You did not perform your way out. You simply stepped back and never returned. That kind of energy is rare. And it creates a kind of silence that people do not know how to interpret. To those who relied on your presence, your attention, your willingness to stay even when it hurt, your absence feels unnatural. It feels like something is missing because something is missing you, but here is what they cannot understand. You are not missing them the way they expected. You are not sitting in regret. You are not replaying moments wishing you did more. You are not questioning your decision every night. Because when you left, you did not just leave physically. You left energetically. That is the part that shocks them the most. Most people leave situations but remain emotionally attached. They still check, still wonder, still hope. Their body leaves but their mind stays behind. You did something different. You withdrew your energy completely. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You stop feeding the very thing that once controlled your attention. You stop giving life to what was slowly taking life from you. The dynamic shifts without you saying a single word. Now they feel the absence. Now they feel the silence. Now they feel what it is like to reach and not be met. This is not revenge. This is alignment. You are no longer operating from a place of lack. You are no longer chasing connection at the cost of your peace. You are no longer trying to convince anyone of your value. You simply became unavailable for anything that does not recognize you naturally. That shift is quiet, but it is undeniable. Even if they never say it out loud, they feel it. They feel that you are no longer accessible in the same way. They feel that the door they thought would always be open is now closed without drama, without noise, without explanation. And silence like that speaks louder than anything you could have said. Most people cannot handle that kind of silence because it forces them to sit with themselves. It forces them to question what happened. It forces them to confront the possibility that they underestimated you. When you stop chasing, you do not just change your behavior, you change your identity. You move from someone who seeks validation to someone who embodies it. You move from someone who waits to be chosen to someone who chooses themselves. That shift is not loud. It is grounded, steady, and real. This is why they are shocked. They were expecting the old version of you, the one who would reach out, the one who would soften first, the one who would reopen the door. That version of you no longer exists, and they can feel that whether they admit it or not. There is also a reason why your path feels more isolated right now. There is a reason why it feels like fewer people understand you. When you stop chasing, you step out of a cycle that most people are still trapped in. When you step out, you create distance. Not because you are better than anyone, but because your standards have changed. Your energy has changed. Your tolerance has changed. You are no longer available for confusion, inconsistency, or half-hearted connections. That naturally narrows your circle. This is the moment where most people break. The silence feels unfamiliar. The space feels too wide. The absence of chaos feels strange. So they go back, not because they want to, but because they want something familiar. But you did not do that. You stayed. You held your ground. You chose your peace even when it felt uncomfortable. That is what makes you different. And there is something you need to understand. A lot of what is really happening here cannot be spoken about freely anymore. The deeper layers of this shift, the spiritual and psychological truth behind why you feel this way, often get limited or watered down. That is why there is a private sanctuary where these messages go deeper, where everything is explained without filters. If you have been feeling this change, and you cannot fully put it into words yet, that space exists for you. For now, understand this clearly. You are not losing people. You are releasing attachments that were never aligned with who you are becoming. They are not shocked because you left. They are shocked because you never came back. And what they are starting to feel now is only the beginning. What they are feeling now is something they did not prepare for. At first, they thought your silence was temporary. They assumed you just needed time, that eventually you would circle back like before. They were waiting for the familiar version of you to reappear. But as time passed, something started to feel different. The space you left behind did not close. It expanded. And that is when it began to affect them. Stay with me, because this is where it changes in a deeper way. When you truly withdraw your energy, you do not just remove your presence. You remove the role you were unconsciously playing in their life, and most people never realize how much they depended on that role until it is gone. You were the one who understood without needing everything explained. You were the one who gave patience when others would have walked away. You were the one who made things easier, lighter, more stable. And when that disappears, it creates a kind of pressure they cannot ignore. At first, they try to distract themselves. They tell themselves it does not matter. They convince themselves that you were replaceable, that the connection was not as deep as it felt. But something keeps pulling their attention back to you, not because you are chasing them, but because you are not. That is what disrupts their normal pattern. They are used to being remembered, reached for, kept in someone's emotional orbit. But you stepped out of that completely. And now they are left with something unfamiliar. Silence that does not break. Distance that does not shrink, a version of you that does not react. Most people do not know how to process that. This is where tension builds, because now they are the ones thinking, they are the ones replaying conversations, they are the ones questioning what happened. And the more they think about it, the more they start to see things they ignored before. Moments where you gave more than you received. Moments where you stayed quiet instead of creating conflict. Moments where you chose understanding over being understood. And this realization does not come all at once. It builds slowly, quietly, until it reaches a point where it cannot be ignored anymore. This is the part most people miss. Your absence becomes a mirror. Not a mirror you are holding up intentionally, but one that naturally appears when your energy is no longer there to soften everything. Without you balancing things out, they are left face to face with their own actions, their own patterns, their own choices. And not everyone is comfortable with that. Some will feel regret, but never admit it. Some will feel the shift, but suppress it. Some will try to reach out in subtle ways, testing if the old version of you is still available. And this is where your growth is tested on a deeper level. Because it is not just about leaving. It is about not returning when the pull comes back. You may feel it, that moment where something tries to pull your attention back toward what you walked away from. Not because it is right for you, but because it is familiar. Because part of you remembers the connection, the history, the emotional investment. That does not mean you made the wrong decision. It means you are human enough to remember, but strong enough not to repeat. Most people fail at this stage. They interpret the pull as a sign to go back. They think feeling something again means something has changed. But stay with me, because this is where clarity matters. Feeling does not always mean alignment. Missing something does not mean it was right for you. And being remembered does not mean you are meant to return. You moved forward for a reason. And if you break that movement, you do not go back to where you left off. You go back to the same cycle that made you leave in the first place. That is why your silence matters now more than ever. Not as a weapon, not as a strategy, but as a boundary. A boundary that protects the version of you that has already grown beyond what you once tolerated. A boundary that says you are no longer available for anything that requires you to shrink, to overgive, or to lose yourself. And here is something even deeper. When you stop chasing, you also stop attracting the same kind of situations that required you to chase. Your energy shifts, your standards shift, the way you respond shifts, and over time, your entire environment begins to reflect that change. But this transition period can feel confusing because you are no longer who you used to be, but you have not fully stepped into what is next. It can feel quiet. It can feel slow. It can even feel like nothing is happening. But something is happening. You are stabilizing. You are becoming someone who does not move based on emotional impulses, but based on alignment. Someone who does not seek validation, but naturally holds it. Someone who does not chase connection, but attracts what resonates. And that takes time. This is why patience becomes part of your path. Not passive waiting, but grounded trust in what you have already become. Now, let me tell you something important. Many people ask what to do during this phase. They think they need to act, to reach, to fix something, to resolve something. But the truth is, your power right now is in what you are not doing. You are not chasing. You are not forcing. You are not reopening doors that closed for a reason. And that restraint is what builds your strength. There is a deeper level to this journey that most people never fully understand. It is not just about relationships or situations. It is about breaking internal patterns that kept you tied to things that were not meant for you. It is about recognizing your own value without needing it to be confirmed externally. This is where most people get stuck. I broke this down deeper step by step inside the sanctuary because some of this can't be fully explained here. And for those going through this more intensely, I also put together something structured to help you move through it without falling back into old patterns. If you have felt this shift, if you know you are no longer the same person, but you are still navigating what comes next, that guidance will help you move with clarity instead of confusion. Because what you are experiencing right now is a transition. There comes a point where your silence is no longer questioned, it is understood. Not always accepted and not always respected, but understood. They begin to realize that you are not coming back, not because you are stubborn or trying to prove anything, but because something in you has changed in a way that no longer allows you to return to what once felt normal. Stay with me, because this is the moment everything becomes clear. Stay with me, because this is where most people lose their clarity. At first they were confused, then they became curious, then they started to feel your absence. But now they reach a deeper awareness. They recognize that your distance is not temporary, it is not emotional, it is structural. It is part of who you have become. And that realization hits in a way they cannot ignore, because now it is no longer about waiting for you, it is about accepting that the version of you they once knew is gone. That forces them to confront what they avoided. They have to face the role they played, they have to sit with what they overlooked, and they have to process the fact that you were never as replaceable as they convinced themselves you were. But here is the truth most people never say out loud. By the time they fully understand your value, you have already outgrown the space where they recognized it. That is where your power becomes undeniable. Not because you are trying to be powerful, but because you are no longer seeking anything from places that once defined you. You are not waiting for closure, you are not hoping for acknowledgement, and you are not tied to outcomes that depend on someone else's awareness. You are free in a way that cannot be reversed. That kind of freedom changes how you see everything. You begin to notice patterns without needing proof, you sense inconsistency without needing explanation, and you feel alignment without needing reassurance. Most importantly, you trust yourself in a way you never did before. This is the peak realization. You were never meant to chase, you were never meant to convince, and you were never meant to stay in spaces that required you to abandon yourself just to be accepted. When you understand that fully, something settles inside you. Not intensity, not excitement, but peace. A grounded and steady peace that does not need validation to exist. This is why you no longer feel the urge to go back. Even if they reach out, even if they change their tone, even if they begin to see you differently, it does not move you the same way it once would have. Because your decision was never based on them, it was based on you finally seeing yourself clearly. And once that happens, everything else becomes secondary. There will still be moments where life tests this version of you, not always through the same people, but through similar situations. Different faces with the same patterns. The question will not be whether you notice, you will. The question will be whether you stay aligned with what you have already learned. Growth is not proven when everything is quiet. It is proven when you are given another chance to repeat the past and you choose differently. This is where your transformation becomes real. You do not chase what confuses you. You do not entertain what drains you. You do not hold on to what does not choose you clearly, and you do not return to what you already had to walk away from. That becomes your standard, and the more you live by it, the more your life begins to reflect it. The connections you attract will feel different, not forced, not uncertain, not one-sided. There will be a natural sense of respect and balance. You will not feel like you have to earn your place or prove your worth. You will simply exist in spaces where your presence is recognized without effort. There is also something deeper to accept. They may never fully tell you what they realized. They may never come forward with the clarity you once hoped for. They may process everything internally and never express it outwardly. Before, that would have felt incomplete, like something was left unresolved. But now you do not need that. Your closure did not come from them, it came from your awareness. It came from the moment you saw clearly and chose yourself without hesitation. That kind of closure does not depend on conversations or apologies or timing. It exists because you decided it was enough. That is the final shift. You are no longer waiting for anything to make sense. You are the one who made sense of it. That is why you can move forward without looking back. If you feel this, don't ignore it. What you're experiencing right now has a deeper layer to it, and that deeper layer is no longer here. It's in the private sanctuary. And if you're going through this more intensely, I left something more structured for you there to help you navigate it step by step. The link is in the description. Go where you feel led.